You won't believe this, but if you remember the Freedom Trucker Convoy that happened in Canada, it's been under attack. The organizer is in court right now. They're trying to say that she's a big convict for organizing the Trucker Freedom Convoy. Well, they just convicted a gentleman named Arthur Pawlowski. He's a Canadian pastor, and he's actually been sentenced to 60 days for taking part in the protest. But what did he do? He spoke at the protest, and they decided that that was criminal behavior. Speaking at a protest was criminal behavior. Now, I want you to remember this because a lot of us, we definitely agreed with the Trucker Freedom Convoy and that protest. And so we're very much, very passionate about supporting them and what they were there protesting, and really against the persecution of many of these protesters. But protesters are protesters no matter what they're protesting. And whether they be climate protesters and maybe you don't agree with them, or maybe they be BLM protesters, or maybe they be Trucker Freedom Convoy or anti-mandate protesters, protesters need to be protected. The act of protesting needs to be protected because you never know when you want to protest something against your government. And what we're seeing is that erosion of our rights just constantly being chipped away. You cannot speak and you cannot protest. How dare you? I mean, these are attacks on fundamental freedoms. Now, this is Canada. It's a little bit different than the United States, but they still share many of the same fundamental freedoms. But this is the story. Arthur Pawlowski was found guilty of mischief and breaching a release order for his role in the protest. It says a Calgary pastor has been sentenced to 60 days in jail for his role in protests against COVID-19 public health measures that blocked Alberta's main Canada-U.S. border crossing for more than 2 weeks. But a judge gave Arthur 60 days credit for time already served. So he did serve 78 days, I believe, already. They jailed him. And so they said, okay, well, we'll credit you with what you've already done. So that was nice of them, but he already served time in jail. Justice Gordon Krinke said Monday that Pawlowski was not involved in the planning of the Freedom Convoy, and he didn't play a major role with his appearance at the border blockade. So he wasn't even a planner. He was just, not any of those things, but they decided to jail the guy anyway. They said probation, and then they said so probation would serve no useful purpose as the accused does not believe he did anything wrong. He's not remorseful for the harm he has caused. Why would he be? He's like, you guys caused me harm, not the other way around. You guys doubly caused me harm. First, you're trying to mandate these vaccines on us, saying that we can't go anywhere unless we take them. And then secondly, you jail me for participating in a protest. I mean, so they're saying, well, he doesn't even feel remorse. So I don't know if we should do any sort of probation for him. He doesn't feel remorseful. He shouldn't. It says both the Crown and the defense are proposing a period of incarceration, and I accept that. A period of incarceration is required in order to achieve the objectives of denunciation and deterrence. So they're saying we're not going to give him probation. He doesn't feel guilty enough, so we need to throw him in jail for his behavior so that he learns his lesson and so that others learn from him as well, is what they're saying. Said in May, Pawlowski was found guilty of mischief and breaching a release order for his role in the blockade. The Crown has sought a sentence of 8 to 10 months. That's how long they wanted to put him away for, 8 to 10 months for protesting. The defense lawyers were asking for time served. During the trial, prosecutors said Pawlowski's impassioned speech to truckers, this is what he did wrong. This is why they're wanting to throw him in jail for 10 months. He had an impassioned speech to truckers that fanned the flames of unrest and convinced them to stay longer. That's what he did wrong. He gave such a good speech that the people there protesting felt empowered by his passionate speech, and they were determined to stick it out longer in that protest. So because he did that, he's going to jail. Unbelievable. Another complete infringement on our rights to protest our government, to speak our minds. They said, this case is not about freedom of religion, and it's not about free speech. This case is a straightforward criminal case, said the prosecutor. All protests have to take place within the rule of law. As a person, you don't get to choose what laws you follow. Yeah, well, the government doesn't get to choose which protests we decide to protest, what things we want to protest. But they didn't like this one, and so they decided that this protest went above and beyond, and it was too noisy. Remember what they were complaining about? They were saying, well, it's inconvenient, it's annoying. Yeah, what else is a protest supposed to be? If you could just walk past protesters and not pay any attention to them, How effective is that protest? A protest is meant to be effective. And they don't like that this one was a bit effective. They don't like that so many Canadians came out and said, we don't like what the government is doing. We're against this. They didn't like the media attention that this protest received. And they didn't like that these people came out and spoke passionately and riled up the crowd and made people want to stick it out longer on this protest. So that is what this man did wrong, according to the government. He gave a passionate speech. People felt really fired up and they decided to stick around longer for that protest. How dare he? Off to jail he goes. Absolutely unreal. What world are we living in? This is just absolutely crazy. But wanted to give you that. Luckily, his attorneys won out and he did get time served. So hopefully that'll be the end of it for him, the end of this saga and this drama. But wow, the Canadian government is really frightening. They've really gone full on fascist up there, just really bizarre. And of course, they would hear me say that and say, oh, it's the right wingers who are the fascists, not us. Well, it's like, no, you guys have really, you're throwing away free speech, throwing away the right to protest, telling people they have to, you're mandating medicines that people are forced to take into their bodies, injections. I don't know what else to call that except for fascism from my viewpoint. All right, guys, let me tell you about this new company called Bambee. This is a really cool company. If you're a small business owner, then it's really difficult to get HR. You might feel like you have to hire somebody, and that can be really expensive. But we all know when you're running a business, your employees can create all kinds of interesting situations. Something small like complaints because someone's kind of stinky, right? Someone's always smelling bad at work. Or it could be something larger like actual complaints. There's sexual harassment complaints or other types of complaints. Well, with Bambee, you're going to get access to your own dedicated HR manager starting at just $99 per month. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat, so onboarding and terminations really run smooth. Team members can reach their peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. And with Bambee's HR Autopilot, you're going to automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. And what's really great about Bambee is your HR manager is a US-based person dedicated to giving your business the best that it could get. I mean, you need to get that US-based person to give you access to the HR expertise and the personal touch that you need. HR managers can easily cost $80 grand a year, but Bambee starts at $99 per month. So schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambee can take off your plate. Go to Bambee.com now and type in Kim Iverson under podcast. So when you sign up, you just give me credit. That'll really help the show out. So when you just go and sign up, just, they'll say, how did you hear about us? And you go to you click podcast and then type Kim Iverson there. So go to Bambee, that's Bambee.com, Bambee.com, type Kim Iverson under podcast and get yourself set up with some really good HR. It's really important if you do have a small business to stay compliant. That is what you really want to do. So